Good afternoon and welcome to our session on embedded finance. First of all, I would like to thank Abu Dhabi. I would like to thank Abu Dhabi Global Markets for hosting this fantastic event. So what is embedded finance? It was just mentioned, it is the seamless integration of financial services into non-financial platforms. What can it include? Payments, lending, insurance, banking services, and we will hear a lot of other applications as well. Why is embedded finance so relevant? It's not only reshaping consumer and business experiences, it's also emerging as a massive growth driver in the financial industry and for the financial industry. However, embedded finance also comes with challenges, it comes with complexities. Market challenges such as consumer trust and seamless user experiences are very critical to the success, and these are things which we just discussed earlier. Regulatory frameworks also need to be looked at, particularly across jurisdictions. Risk management is also a very important aspect. How do we, for example, ensure data security? How do we mitigate risks when financial services are embedded into non-financial, non-traditional platforms? We at the Institute of International Finance, in collaboration with Deloitte, just recently published a note where we underscored the urgency of addressing these issues, the need for clearer strategies, a strong collaboration between financial and non-financial players, and what we said earlier, the introduction of innovative regulatory approaches. Gina, when we look at MasterCard, MasterCard has always been a champion in innovation when it comes to payments. Embedded finance is clearly transforming how financial services are delivered and also consumed. What are the main benefits of this innovative shift, of this innovative change, and what does it mean for your company, for MasterCard?
Thanks, Wolfgang. I mean, look, the opportunity really is ripe for us to really meet customers where they are. And so embedded finance creates that opportunity across segments. So whether you're consumer customers who are looking to pay and get paid, or whether you're corporate or SME customers, across the kind of value chain, there are many opportunities for us to intersect. And I think we take our responsibility in that ecosystem very seriously, and it's a privilege for us to be a connector, whether it be through merchants, through financial institutions, through the regulator as well too, as a way to kind of bring together all of those parties to ensure that we create much more seamless experiences, that we also bring more people into the digital economy. So, still in this day and age, we still have, almost 30% of people across the MENA region who technically are not, completely banked. So for us, embedded finance really becomes an enabler to help us close the gap when it comes to driving inclusion for those that are underserved. And of course, we then are able to lean into, as I said, meeting people where they are, leaning into their passion points and making payments almost invisible within that experience. So the opportunity is for us as, is in that kind of enablement space, whether it be through technology, through the relationships that we have across the ecosystem, and being that kind of driver of innovation and creativity and collaborations with partners like some of whom that are on the stage here and who've been on the stage earlier today.
Pulkit, embedded finance is changing many areas, including mobility. How is Invigo, your company, adapting to embed financial services into broader digital ecosystems which you are already using?
Thank you for that question. So if you look at the automotive and mobility industry within our region, it's already a $50 billion market and expected to grow very fast over the next few years. But if you look at it from the consumer standpoint, it's still fraught with a lot of hurdles, hassles in getting a car. Imagine you're an expat that's just come into the country and you need a car. So what are you going to do? Jump from rental counters to another, compare prices, compare availability. It's painful. And if you're a young financial professional or you just entered the workforce, you don't have a 6 months bank statements to get the KYC and loan application and all of that done through a bank. So that's why we exist. That's why that's where we come in. Getting a car from Invigo is as easy as it gets. You can literally log into the app. It's an instant KYC, instant approvals process. So no banks, no financial institutions, no insurance companies. Everything gets done through the app, and the car gets delivered to you literally like your food order. So we exist for the same reason why a Netflix or a Spotify existed for, let's say, the music or the TV show industry. It's much more convenient. It's much more financially accessible as opposed to buying each song or each TV show. We're just scratching the surface. Subscriptions are only 1% penetration in our markets as compared to all other products. So mobility still has a long way to go. But we're there, we're at the forefront, we're leading that revolution, and there's a lot more for us to be done yet.
Tariq, you announced a very innovative financial transaction this morning, which you're going to be doing with Citi and a number of other financial institutions. So congratulations again.
Thank you.
Astra Tech, when we look at the company, it clearly operates at the intersections between technology and finance. How do you prioritize embedded finance solutions in your digital offerings?
So I think one of the important things so let's park Astra Tech on the side for a moment. I think if you look at household debt in the region, right, including the unbanked component, right, you're still at much lower levels than you are relative to most other developed markets, right? And so if you look at places like the Kingdom, you look at the UAE and others, you have a massive opportunity to help people better understand what it is that they can and can't do with their financial situation, right? I mean, people globally are, discussing inflation, salaries are not improving, right? But cost of living is going up, different things are happening in different places. So the way that we view this is very much a function of how it is that we can help people be able to access the goods that they need, be able to educate themselves on the financial instruments that they may not know about, right? In a very transactional but long-term partnership approach, which is the way that we work with our partners. MasterCard's a key partner for us in a lot of the growth that we've been undertaking. I think when you look at that crossroads today, if I look at the advent of AI into everything that we do, you're going to see, as Jayash mentioned on the previous panel, right? To read a statement that simply or have that statement communicate with you, right? A lot of people today don't realize how much it is that they're spending, right? And so I think for us, we create that savings environment. We give people the product. We're growing rapidly in terms of the user base that we have. And the legacy financial institutions are very important for the ecosystem, but there's a large segment of people and SMEs that are left behind in that process, who really are the engine of growth for a lot of what it is that we are looking to accomplish. So I think for us, we look at this very pragmatically. How do we expand the product offering? How do we create essentially stickiness within the platform that we have? But to continue to scale, we have to work with partners. We have to provide a platform where other entities can come, startups can come, plug into what we've built, access our database, either powered by Botum or powered by that platform, and help educate the consumers on what it is they don't realize that they could have access to, but also do it in a very ethical way. I think it's very important. You have, for example, I'll give you an example. The UK had this big crisis a few years ago, right, on the early wage access and the short-term loans, and you'd see the APR. You ran out of time reading how long the number was in terms of the APR charged, right? We don't have practices like that here. We follow the regulations. The regulators here are very nimble, but also very clear on what it is that we can and can't do. So I think for us, it's still very nascent here in the region. I think with the right partners and the right growth, and now with that very powerful balance sheet that we've been given from Citigroup. We're going to continue to offer more innovative products to people and watch it grow.
Gina, embedded finance is being used in many industries and across industries. How does MasterCard, your company, see its role in accelerate the adoption of embedded finance, particularly across industries?
Yeah, I mean, look, across the entire life cycle of a customer, and as our partners continue to add more and more services, MasterCard has a role to play in each of those expansion opportunities. So we become an enabler. A merchant may diversify and decide they want to issue cards. They may decide that they want to offer cross-border remittances. They may decide that they want to, unlock acquiring services, etc. All of which are things that Bottom does, actually. So in each of those new verticals that they unlock, we provide technology solutions that enable them to take place, but also that enable them to take place in a safe and secure way. So MasterCard invests globally in technology solutions that cannot be replicated. They they're not easy for fraudsters to to tap into and that sort of thing. So we provide merchants and kind of new players in the industry the assurance that they're able to embark on this new journey from when it comes to offering financial services. Which what that does is it helps them build trust with their end users as well too, because I'm comfortable taking a payment facility from a partner where I'm maybe more used to making an international phone call or what have you. So and we see that across industries. In the panel before we had Weo and Kareem. These are all institutions which are changing the way we do things, whether it be through super apps or looking at being more of a kind of digital bank, and they've had to be, in order to be able to do that, they've had to rely on the safety, security, and brand reputation that MasterCard brings to the table. So by having our kind of 60 years of experience, we create that trust in the market with tried and tested solutions that can enable our partners. And then when it comes to actually growing the business then as well, we plug into our partners not just with the kind of technology and infrastructure-based solutions, but we also then overlay cutting-edge AI technologies. So, for example, solutions like dynamic yield, which is a platform which allows us to help our customers grow from a marketing and advertising perspective. So we try to bring our global perspectives into whether it be kind of local and newer merchants here, maybe homegrown merchants from the UAE, right up to large-scale global merchants, whether it be across airlines or fast food, etc. And we apply those capabilities that we've invested in globally to enable merchants to be able to really offer those payment solutions to their end customers.
Pulkit, when it comes to partnerships and when we look at mobility, what kind of opportunities do you see? What kind of role do you, as a key participant in this market, want to play? Where do you see this market in a couple of years?
Yes, of course, you have to drive value back to your partners to grow. How we see ourselves is an integrated fintech mobility solutions platform, right? So we started with all these brick-and-mortar businesses and got them to move their cars more digital-friendly process, and now we've been collecting a lot of data, which is across consumers, across the cars that they drive, how they drive these cars, how they make their payments, how frequently they make their payments, whether they're incurring a lot of fines, damages, whatnot, the level of services our suppliers are able to provide. So with all this data, we're able to understand a lot better what our consumers need. So one of the things that we are talking to one of the insurance companies about is how do we move to usage-based insurance, right? If you're the kind of person who likes to bomb in on a roundabout at 100 kilometers an hour versus another driver who's a lot more safer in that approach, why should you pay the same amount, for your insurance product? So how much you drive your car, how well you drive your car, how good your behavior is, that's one of the opportunities that we've seen more on the financial side. And even on the retail side, what we're learning is there's a lot of appetite for hyper-localized geospatial advertisements. So let's say you're passing by a KFC and they want to advertise, I don't know, an offer for your car that's passing by. That's something that we're looking at. So at the end of the day, everything comes back to the data that we're collecting at Invigo, right? And our ability to make sense of this data to drive value to our end consumers and our partners.
Yeah. Tarek, sustainable finance is growing strongly, very strongly. The MC was mentioning that we expect to see growth rates of 30% plus annually in the next couple of years in the UAE alone. In this kind of context, how do you ensure scalability and also sustainability?
So look, I think it's an interesting question, because if you look at Wall Street today, right, we've gone from, what was it, 10 years ago, if you were not focused on ESG, you were not getting certain funds in, and now all those funds are going, look, just park the ESG for a moment, right? And it's been interesting because, not all, but a lot. It's been interesting to see, because when you look at the role the UAE has played recently on COP28, and I know this is a bit of an angle here that I'm coming at, that entire initiative was built around sustainability. We will suffer the most in this part of the world from the lack of sustainable practices when it comes to everything related to energy, to the way that we consume, to the way that we behave, right? And I think that part of the driver for us, and when we look at even our relationship with Citi, financial inclusion, that for me is a core component of sustainability. If you can teach people how to better spend and how to spend on product that they need, right? I think you will start to see a very different behavior than this rapid consumer behavior that we currently see. And so if I take, for example, some of the user base that we have at AstraTech through the Botum platform, these are lower income earners, blue collar workers, who are looking at really saving for the future and saving to take care of their families, right? I need to build product around that enables them to be able to address the basic needs that they have and that their families need when they're transferring money to them, but also to protect them. They have left their home countries, in some cases for decades, and returned back only to find out that they need to go back out again and work. I want to change that behavior. And we can only do it through sustainable practices, through sustainable investing, through showing them that they can still attain the things that they want, but I can bring them up on the financial inclusion ladder, right? Now, one thing I think that's really important here, and we have a massive consumer base in this region that stretches into Southeast Asia and so on, is the Islamic finance component within the embedded finance. I currently don't have a product for that, but if there are builders in this room that know how to address that, I think that's going to be a massive opportunity to do something, particularly when you look at mobility. If you look at and don't get it too right, because the traffic's already bad in the UAE. If you get traffic.
Sorry about that.
But I think if you look at countries across sub-Saharan Africa, across the what they like to refer to as the global south, the penetration of cars and vehicles to individuals, in many instances, is less than one vehicle or mode of transportation for every 50 individuals. We have a much higher, a much better ratio here, right? If you can start to improve that and change that ratio and offer products to allow people to do it so they can commute to places where they can work or be educated, you start to change the trajectory of their lives, right? And I'm not saying this to be cliche, but I genuinely believe that an Ultra app with the financial power that we have should be delivering that and will be delivering that going forward, and so that all of them can go home and retire when they get back home, right?
Gina, we talked about partnerships, financial institutions, non-financial institutions, and we all agree it is improving, it's strengthening, and it needs to strengthen further. You mentioned a couple of areas where you're already collaborating with non-financial and financial institutions. Can you give us a couple of examples where this kind of cooperation has also helped to enhance customer experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, it's quite exciting when we work with non-financial institutions. It's, kind of a different ball game. A lot of different conversations get had, and there's a lot of different ways in which, we drive a changing dynamic in terms of customer experience. One such example is we have a platform called the Shopping Muse, which essentially allows us with retailers, to leveraging the power of AI, of course, to help change the dynamic of finding what you're looking for on a shopping platform. So we've launched this with some global retailers, whereby instead of writing that, hey, I'm looking for a red suit, you might say, I'm going to a wedding in India, and I want a specific outfit that will kind of align to that. So it leverages the power of the data that the merchant already has, as well as kind of ingesting other data sources to allow the recommendations that then come back to consumers to be much more targeted, and ultimately a strong driver for growth. So I guess that's one example of how we intersect with merchants at different levels, not just in the context of I think historically people thought MasterCard was a card provider, but we are not. We are a technology solutions provider that enable businesses across kind of many layers. So that's in the context of sort of AI and how we're using those solutions to drive forward non-FI businesses. But even with those non-FIs, we're also working with them to ensure that their payments are being processed. So maybe it's a small merchant who actually needs a solution like pay by link or QR code payments to bring them into a more digital economy. So they may have been receiving cash payments and so on and so forth. So there are kind of smaller everyday solutions right up to very strong and powerful AI solutions that leverage the power of the data that our merchants are able to collect. So for us, it's quite fascinating, and it's a different dynamic to say when we work with the traditional banks, who of course have access to a lot of data and payments information as well too. And I think we're just to Jayash's point on the earlier panel, is that we're just scratching the surface with leveraging that data to its full capacity. So we've been investing heavily in kind of AI solutions, in open banking solutions as well too, to help be that connector across whether it be non-FIs right into financial institutions. Because at the end of the day, a non-FI still requires an FI partner to help enable their solutions from a regulatory, from a licensing standpoint as well too. So we tend to work to bring together all of those platforms holistically, to be able to drive forward their growth agenda across multiple verticals.
Yeah. Pulkit, I'm afraid the last question of this very interesting conversation goes to you, just looking at the time left. The UAE is clearly a trendsetter also when it comes to embedded finance, clear vision, clear legal and strong legal framework, and of course also a very innovative environment. Nevertheless, we see in embedded finance also growing globally. What lessons can we learn here in the UAE, in our region, from other markets? Please keep in mind the clock is ticking, so.
I'll keep it very short. I think I would have had a lot of things to say and to request and demand and whatnot if we had the same conversation 3 years ago. But just the transformation that the UAE has been having, especially from the point of bringing in fresh, young talent, experienced talent that's had the global experience, I think that's just been transformational for the region. And the better people we have around ourselves, the better we can build. And I think that's something that the UAE has done very well. And so yeah, I think it would have been a different conversation a few years ago, but extremely happy with where we are and just getting started.
Thank you. This brings us to the end of our session. Please join me in giving our panelists a big hand of applause. Thank you.